Jayakumar, who? You can start the intro.
Maharaj has joined, Prabhu?
Not yet, but you can get started. I just spoke to Vrishabhan. He said he will notify us. But you can get started with the intro though.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome for our Saturday program. Today we have a very special speaker, and I'm very honored to introduce him. I'm not qualified, but I have been given task to do the introduction of His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj, and I feel very fortunate. So a very warm welcome to all the devotees who have assembled here. As we know, His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj has been serving Atlanta, in last entire week. He has been visiting devotees' homes and giving so many nectarian discourses over a period of week. So today we have a privilege to be with him. And before we go into the class and Maharaj starts speaking, we must know the details of Maharaj, how he came into Krishna consciousness. When we know about a person, our affection, our love for them increases when we know a person a little more. So let me begin with a small introduction of His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj. This is a very brief introduction, dear devotees. We can speak for hours about his glories, but let me give the little nectar so that we all can get inspiration from his introduction itself. So Maharaj, came from a very small town called Uticha in New York, and he took birth in 1948. There's such a small town, right? He was born in a middle-class Christian family, and he was the youngest of the 5 children that they had. Those who were, were very close to him. They describe Rompada Swami Maharaj as a very responsible, principle center and very high achieving young boy. In 1969, while attending the State University of Buffalo, Rompada Swami met his eternal spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, in July 1971. Rompada Swami received his first initiation or Harinam Diksha from his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. He later received his second initiation, Brahman Diksha, in the summer of 1972. In 1983, Rompada Swami accepted sannyas. He traveled extensively throughout the United States and Europe, sharing Krishna consciousness. His lectures are shared, specifically he shares on Bhakti Yoga with a wide range of audiences. He has been a guest speaker at Fortune 500 organization or a corporation. A testament of how he was first introduced to Bhakti Yoga, Rompada Swami remains dedicated to college outreach and education. He has inspired others to start Bhakti Yoga clubs and Krishna lunch, karma-free food, what we call it as distribution. At universities, Rompada Swami conducts several spiritual nourishing retreats, seminars throughout the year, and also leads an annual pilgrimage to various sacred sites within India. Rompada Swami focus is on to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to learn the teachings of his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and to provide very meaningful, practical methods through which everyone can develop their relationship with the God. So this is such a beautiful introduction that we can see. And I'm very honored to have, met him in person last week. And I'm very happy that he's with us today and sharing the nectar on the Krishna Balarama glories. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Moderator here. Can you hear me? Please verify.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, Maharaj. I can hear you.
Can you see the slides on the screen?
I see a symbol. Is that the one, Maharaj?
Balaram kills Ass Demon Dhenukasura. Do you see that?
No, Maharaj.
Okay.
1 minute. I think we need to.
He,
We don't see it right now, Maharaj. Could you please try again?
Vishibhanu is an essential part of the presentation, so he's going to do what he has to do so that you can see.
Okay, Maharaj.
Let me know when you can see it, and that will be the cue that I can proceed.
Yes, Maharaj. Host, can we make Vishbhanu Prabhu as a co-host, please? So that he can share the slides.
I think Prabhu's already co-host.
No, Vishbhanu Prabhu is going to share the slide, is what I understand.
He's trying this and that.
Okay.
Still can't see, correct?
Yes, Maharaj. Cannot see yet.
You can see now?
Not yet, Maharaj.
Not yet, Maharaj.
Technology is great when it works. Here's what I'll do. I'll just start saying a few things.
Okay, Maharaj.
He's going to put some technical
Okay.
assistance.
Okay, Maharaj.
My understanding is you all are focusing on Krishna Balaram and until the Balaram's appearance day on the Purnima, and then following that Krishna Janmashtami. So
Yes.
I was requested to speak something today and tomorrow on Balaram, and I chose to speak about the two demons in Vrindavan that Balaram killed. And the first of them is Dhenukasura. And the image that you'll see on the screen once it's working, you can see now?
It's working now, Maharaj.
All right.
Jai.
You'll see Krishna and Balaram tossing some demons, giant size ass demons here and there in the Talavan forest. So a little bit of background. This is chapter 15 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. And chapter 15 comes right after chapter 14. And chapter 14 is a celebrated section. It's the prayers of Brahma to Krishna after the Brahma Vimohan Leela. And that took place when Krishna was herding calves, when he was still less than 6 years old, though he was 5 years old. And that pastime took place when he was 5. And now he's just turned 6, indicating he graduated from calves to cows. And another important factor is his relationship with Balaram is also undergoing a little bit of a shift. Our acharyas describe that in their childhood pastimes, Krishna and Balaram, they were just a few days apart and they were simply friends. And so the emphasis in their relationship is friendship, Sakya Rasa. But we know that Balaram is the older brother, and there's this little shift in their relationship where Krishna is starting to respect Balaram as his elder brother. And so a touch of parental affection type of relationship starts to enter until, it matures even further in Dwarka. Now, always Balaram and his mood toward Krishna is serving, and he loves to serve, so much so he serves in all the rasas, and that's another topic. but Krishna is going to give deference to Lord Balaram in this 6-year-old pastime. And we're going to get a picture as chapter 15 opens of what it's like to be a 6-year-old associate of Krishna in Vrindavan. And the acharyas expressed repeatedly that what you're going to hear is similar to what happened every day. It's the grain of rice in the pot of rice kind of idea. And it's a wonderful experience. And when the change from herding calves to cows also included the territory where Krishna and Balaram and the cows went became much larger. In fact, it became the whole of Vrindavan. And we'll hear in some detail that the Talavan forest where Dhenuka resided was midway between the western side of Mathura and the eastern side of Govardhan Hill. It gives the dimensions in yojanas. From Mathura, the western side of Mathura, to Talavan forest was 1 yojana or 8 miles. And from the Talavan forest to Govardhan Hill was another yojana or 8 miles. And it was midway between the two. So it gives you some little geography here of where the Talavan forest is and where this pastime took place, the age of Krishna, the mood of Krishna, the mood of Balaram, the mood of the cowherd boys. And there, Krishna loves Vrindavan. And the residents of Vrindavan love Krishna. And we're going to hear some more about that as we begin. Balaram's position as the elder brother, we generally depicted carrying a plow, haladar, because Krishna attracts the cows with his flute, and Balaram carries the plow to till the field, Krishi Goraksha. These two functions of the three of the Vaishya community. And Balaram would sometimes use his plow in other ways, like a weapon. And we'll hear some more about that as we go on. His complexion, I'm sure you've been hearing this because you're focused on Balaram before Krishna's appearance. But he's identical with Krishna. Commonly we hear, except his complexion is like milk, white like milk, that kind of white. And the other is his mood is that of serving his younger brother, Krishna. That's Balaram's mood. And so the scene opens with chapter 15, where Krishna and Balaram have attained the age of Poganda, and they graduate from calves to cows. Now, the fact of the matter is, the calves are totally attached to Krishna. So when Krishna starts taking the cows, guess who follows? The calves also follow. And not only calves follow, but the bulls follow because they're attached to Krishna. And he has a really good time with the calves and the cows. Here's some phrases that come directly from the canto. Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. When Lord Rama and Lord Krishna attained the age of Poganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. So we see the picture below. There's the cows. Krishna saying goodbye to the elders as he goes off with the cows into the forest. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Now there's a daily ritual, which isn't detailed in this 15th chapter, but it's getting Krishna ready to go out. And you see at the doorway, there's the cowherd boys. They're saying, come on, hurry up. go herd the cows. But Mother Jasoda is intent on, after bathing Krishna, dressing Krishna, and preparing him to spend the whole day, because when taking care of the calves, they would come back for lunch. But for the cows, they're out the whole day. So you see those different decorations. There's a garland, and there's his buffalo horn, and there's some ornaments and flowers. And she's just very, very happy dressing Krishna to go for the day to take care of the cows. And Balaram is assisting there at his ankles. And later, as it goes on, it's not just Mother Jasoda, but many of the gopis and many of the cowherd boys. And it's a ritual. It's kind of like your deity dressing. Think of deity dressing is a practice to do what you see on the screen, not the other way around. That's not imitating deity dressing. Deity dressing is preparing for this kind of service to Krishna. Here's another painting of the same scene, making all kinds of arrangements. You can see different decorations and different ointments and different fragrances and oils, and getting Krishna ready to go take care of the cows is a big deal. But when he's finally ready, the cowherd boys are happy and off they go. But you know how mothers are attached to their small children. There's a very beautiful description in Brihat Bhagavatamrita where Krishna takes a couple of steps. Mother Jasoda runs out to make sure he has enough in his lunch bag. Does he have enough samosas? Does he have enough kachoris? She adds a couple extra to Balaram just in case. And she smiles, and Krishna says, I've got to go now, Mother. And he takes another couple steps, and Mother Jasoda runs, and you see she's adjusting his garland and adjusting his belt and telling Balaram, you watch out for him, he's your younger brother. And so many things happen because she's attached like anything to Krishna. But finally, Krishna goes out the gate into the forest of Vrindavan with the elders waving goodbye, the ladies up on the rooftops. Even the monkeys are sad to see Krishna go. And off he goes, herding the cows at the age of 6. Now, this looks like calves because they're much smaller, because cows are much bigger than a 6-year-old boy. And once they're situated some distance in the forest, their mood just becomes very, very joyful. Arm in arm, Krishna and Balaram enjoying each other's company. Now, Krishna loves Vrindavan. It's described when he was 3 years and 4 months, sometime before this. As soon as they crossed the river Jamuna from Gokul, he was rolling in the ground and very, very happy, delighted to be in Vrindavan. The forest of Vrindavan, the bank of the river Jamuna, and Govardhan Hill were his favorites. And as he loved the forest, which means all the entities living in the forest, they loved Krishna very much too. It's described the Supreme Personality of God had looked over that forest, which resounded with the charming sounds of bees, animals, and birds, and which was enhanced by a lake whose clear water resembled the minds of great souls, and by a breeze carrying the fragrance of 100-petaled lotuses. Seeing all this, the Lord decided to enjoy the auspicious atmosphere. So first of all, there's a description of where his attention goes to the entities, or the trees and creepers and bushes and bees and all the peacocks and all the animals in the forest. He's greeting them, but he does so by gesturing to Balaram, seeing how they're worshiping you. The primeval Lord saw that the stately trees with their beautiful reddish buds and their heavy burden of fruits and flowers were bending down to touch his feet with the tips of their branches. Thus he smiled gently and addressed his elder brother. Now, commentary says they knew, Krishna knew, that all of these trees, etc., were worshiping him. But in honor of his elder brother, he speaks to his elder brother as if they're worshiping his elder brother instead of worshiping him. Oh, greatest of lords, Balaram, just see how these trees are bowing their heads at your lotus feet, which are worshipable by the immortal demigods. The trees are offering you their fruits and flowers to eradicate the dark ignorance that has caused their birth as trees. Now, the trees that are trees in Vrindavan, they're not trees because of their dark ignorance. They want to serve Krishna in that way. They're awarded the facility to worship Krishna in that way, but Krishna is speaking in this way. And the commentators say, as we go along, just his glance at each of these entities that he's appreciating and speaking about them, they hear and they feel ecstasy. And so he's stimulating their ecstatic love for him, although their position is not just neutral, they're in the mood of serving him, they become even more ecstatic, and more buds appear and more fruits appear, and they're in ecstasy, hearing the words of Krishna, appreciating their mood of service. Oh, original personality, Balaram, these bees must all be great sages and most elevated devotees of yours, for they are worshiping you by following you along the path and chanting your glories, which are themselves a holy place for the entire world. Though you have disguised yourself within the forest, O sinless one, they refuse to abandon you, their worshipable Lord. And our acharyas that know how to relish rasa describe the note of the hum of the bees is appreciated by Krishna. And with his flute, he spontaneously composes ragas to augment that note of the bees, making their buzzing sound. And the cowherd boys, hearing the flute song of Krishna, they compose songs to glorify Krishna and Balaram to match the raga, which is to complement the humming and buzzing of the bees. It's a concert as they're walking through the forest. You know the verse from Brahma Samhita, the Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo. The verse is saying that in the spiritual world, in Goloka, every step is a dance and every word is a song. There's lots and lots and lots of music. Even just speaking is a song, what to speak of singing and playing musical instruments. They're very empowered to enjoy the transcendental atmosphere of Vrindavan, and Krishna's enjoying. That's the idea. Just being in Vrindavan, he's relishing. Oh, worshipable one, these peacocks are dancing before you out of joy. These doe are pleasing you with affectionate glances, just as the gopis do. And these cuckoos are honoring you with Vedic prayers. All these residents of the forest are most fortunate, and their behavior toward you certainly befits great souls receiving another great soul at home. So that, their home, the home of all of these forest animals, is the forest. And now entering their home is a great soul, and the great soul honoring a great soul. That's Krishna's words. He loves Vrindavan, and he is honoring their love for him by honoring their love for Balaram. That's Krishna's mood. This earth has now become most fortunate because you have touched her grass and bushes with your feet, and her trees and creepers with your fingernails. And because you have graced her rivers, mountains, birds, and animals with your merciful glances. But above all, you have embraced the young cowherd women between your two arms, a favor hankered after by the goddess of fortune herself. Now, this is when the boys are 6 years old, and the pastimes between Balaram and the gopis has not taken place yet. The commentators say Krishna is omniscient and he knows what will take place later. So later, when Balaram is in Dwaraka, he comes to Vrindavan and he does exactly this. And the gradations from the grass to the bushes, to the creepers, to the trees, to the birds, to the animals, the mountains, they're all receiving mercy from Balaram by contact with his feet, with his eyes, with his fingertips, and with his embrace. Krishna loves Vrindavan. Vrindavan loves Krishna, and he's giving all of that same honor and love to his elder brother Balaram. That's the mood. Sometimes with a voice as deep as the rumbling of clouds, Krishna would call out with great affection the names of the animals who had wandered far from the herd, thus enchanting the cows and the cowherd boys. It's said that sometimes the cows would deliberately wander some distance away, hoping Krishna would call their name. And when Krishna would call their name, their ears perked up and their whole body shivered and trembled in ecstasy, just receiving the affection that Krishna was extending to them in a very personal way. Krishna loves Vrindavan, and Krishna loves the cows especially. So they would sometimes wander. He would call their name. Sometimes he would play his flute. And they weren't distracted. They were trance-like, absorbed in thought of Krishna. So as far as their consciousness was concerned, they were with Krishna in every circumstance. This is what our acharyas describe. Desiring to enjoy more pastimes, Lord Madhava, sounding his flute, surrounded by cowherd boys who are chanting his glories, and accompanied by Lord Baladev, kept the cows before him and entered deeper into the Vrindavan forest, which was full of flowers and rich with nourishment for the animals. Now it says the cows were in front of them, and most of the paintings we see Krishna's in front of the cows, but that's okay. Wherever Krishna went, that's where the cows went. That happened even when he was 3 years, 4 months. I like that description. The cowherd man, when Krishna was little, think of some little boy that's 3 years, 4 months. How old are you? How old are you? How old? 6. So imagine when you were 3 years, 4 months, and you're going out into the forest with the elders, and Krishna just had a natural attraction for taking care of the cows. He just loved the cows. And so he and Balaram just naturally took charge of a certain set of cows. And then the cowherds started to notice, the men started to notice wherever Krishna went, that's where the cows would go. In fact, they wouldn't go anywhere they wanted them to go unless Krishna would go. And they realized it's a hopeless case. The cows love Krishna, uncheckable love for Krishna. So their herding of the cows was just going here and there playing. You'll hear about the playing shortly. And they just followed Krishna wherever he went. So Krishna wants to enjoy further pastimes. And so he's going to become absorbed further in the birds and the animals in the forest, because that's part of the forest. It's not just the trees. He would be surrounded not only by cows, but all the varieties of animals in the forest, sometimes like little children. Remember, they're just 6 years old, Poganda age. They would imitate the fear that the small animals would hear or feel when hearing a lion roar. Here's what the Bhagavatam says. Sometimes Krishna would cry out in imitation of birds such as the chakoras, crouches, chakravakas, bharadvajas, and peacocks. And sometimes he would run away with smaller animals in mock fear of lions and tigers. Sometimes Krishna would talk with the birds in their language. Sometimes Krishna and the cowherd boys would call down a well, making bad names, and the sound would come back. The bad names would echo and they would laugh. Sometimes Krishna would get on a swing with the cowherd boys. They would enjoy swinging pastimes. After some playing and playing, Balarama would become tired. And so Krishna would massage his feet. This is the younger brother and the elder brother mood. There's a very nice description of how this resting arrangement was made. It was just an opportunity for the cowherd boys to render some service. When his elder brother, fatigued from playing, would lie down with his head upon the lap of a cowherd boy, Lord Krishna would help him relax by personally massaging his feet and offering other services. And sometimes Krishna would rest. Sometimes Lord Krishna also grew tired from fighting and lay down at the base of a tree, resting upon a bed made of soft twigs and buds, and using the lap of a cowherd friend as his pillow. Now, how many cowherd boys were there? How many cowherd boys were there? The Bhagavatam in chapter 8 says asankyataha. Asankyataha means too many to count. Sankhya means to count, and asankyataha means too many to count. So when Krishna was ready to rest, there are different groups of cowherd boys that would make places for Krishna to rest using buds and soft twigs, making a soft little bed. But they all wanted that service, and so there were many, many beds. And sometimes Krishna would expand himself into many, many Krishnas to lie down in that little place that the cowherd boys had made. But they wouldn't see that there were multiple Krishnas expanded. They would just see Krishna enjoying this nice bed arrangement that they had made for him. Krishna has such capacities. Even when he was little, he was doing these things. Some of the cowherd boys, who were all great souls, would then massage his lotus feet, and others, qualified by being free of all sin, would expertly fan the Supreme Lord. Now, the painting on the left is Balaram, not just because he is white, but if you look carefully, you see over his right shoulder is a plow. It says Balaram. And the cowherd boys are fanning Krishna with leaf fans and massaging his feet. And the leg of one boy was his pillow, and the bed of soft twigs and buds of flowers. Very nice. Enjoying, as little boys will do. And then after some rest, off they go again, going yet deeper into the forest of Vrindavan. And Krishna is blowing upon his buffalo horn. The purpose of that was to alert the other trees and creepers and bushes and animals and birds, here we come. And they would thrill in ecstatic joy and jubilation, knowing Krishna is coming. Here's the same painting in a closer perspective. And some of the cowherd boys are just with the cows. The cows are looking at Krishna and they're enjoying together. Now comes the Talavan forest part. Once, so that was describing a typical day. Once, some of the cowherd boys, Sridham, the very close friend of Rama and Krishna, along with Subal, Stoka Krishna, and others, lovingly spoke the following words. The cowherd boys said, "O Rama, Rama, mighty armed one, O Krishna, destroyer of the miscreants, not far from here is a very great forest, filled with rows of palm trees." The Talavan forest. In that Talavan forest, many fruits are falling from the trees, and many are already lying on the ground, but all the fruits are being guarded by the evil Dhenukasura. So the painting is meant to show in their minds, they're thinking of the fruits on the one side and the terrible Dhenuka on the other side. Hearing the words of their dear companions, Krishna and Balaram laughed and desired to please them, set off for the Talavan, surrounded by their cowherd boyfriends. All it takes is a desire from Krishna's devotee, and he's ready. So many examples, so many examples. And their desire is to be with Krishna. Their desire is not separate from Krishna. It's not like they wanted to enjoy the fruits, and that was their sense enjoyment, and they want Krishna to help them with their sense enjoyment. That's not the mood of someone who's a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. They wanted Krishna to have the fruits, and they also wanted the Brijbasis who were unable to enter this very special Tal forest to have access to the fruits by nature's arrangement. It should have been so. The demon Dhenuka has eaten men alive, and therefore all people and animals are terrified of going to the Tal forest, O killer of the enemy. Even the birds are afraid to fly there. Now, the painting doesn't look like they're afraid. They're just marching off to the Tal forest. Oh, Krishna, please get those fruits for us. Our minds are so attracted, by their aroma. Dear Balaram, our desire is to get those fruits, to have those fruits is very great. If you think it's a good idea, let's go to that Tal forest. Now, our acharyas say, some people criticize, this is Rasabhas. They're friends of Krishna. So how would they wish for Krishna or Balaram to go into a place that everyone is afraid of? The demon is so vicious that he was eating residents of Vrindavan that went into the forest. So it's not appropriate to desire something that puts Krishna at risk. The acharyas explain they already knew, because they had seen in many, many cases, Krishna was all powerful. And this was for Krishna's pleasure, not their pleasure. And there was no risk for Krishna because he's all powerful. Now, they weren't seeing Krishna as God, but it was common knowledge that what Gargamuni had said to Nanda Maharaj was proven to be true. During the name-giving ceremony of Krishna, Gargamuni said one of the verses from chapter 8 of Canto 10 was, "This son of yours will have powers like Narayan." He didn't say he was Narayan. He didn't say he wasn't Narayan. He said he'll have powers like Narayan, and with those powers, you'll be able to protect all the Brijbasis, so take good care of your small child. That was his instruction. And obviously, Nanda Maharaj shared that with others. It wasn't a secret. They knew, and they had seen Krishna doing so many things prior to this pastime, prior to his turning 6. He was very and when he was 5, killing of Aghasura and the way that he did what he did. So they were not fearing for Krishna's safety. They wanted to see his virya, his power, his strength, and have the fruits given to Krishna and the elders of Vrindavan. Lord Balaram entered the tall forest first. Then, with his 2 arms, he began forcefully shaking the trees with the power of a maddened elephant, causing the tall fruits to fall to the ground. Hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the ass demon Dhenuka ran forward to attack, making the earth and trees tremble. Dhenuka was huge, huge. Balaram was unconcerned. The powerful demon rushed up to Lord Baladev and sharply struck the Lord's chest with his hooves of his hind legs. Donkeys do that. Their attack method. Then Dhenuka began to run about, braying loudly. Moving again toward Lord Balaram, "O Krishna, O King," the furious ass situated himself with his back towards the Lord, then screaming in rage, the demon hurled his 2 hind legs at him. That was a mistake. There you see the demon getting tossed in the air by Balaram, heading for the tops of one of the trees. Lord Balaram seized Dhenuka by his hooves, whirled him about with one hand. He's 6 years old. One hand taking the hooves, both in one hand. A 6-year-old boy, he must have had big hands, and threw him into the top of a palm tree. The violent wheeling motion killed the demon. There's a very old painting of the same pastime. There's Balaram wheeling him around. Krishna, as you see down below, he's standing and watching. The cowherd boys are cheering Balaram on. "Go, Balaram, go." And this is a painting from one of Shivaram Maharaj's books describing this pastime, where Balaram tosses him into a tree, smashes him. Now, this pastime, in fact, many of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are described in other literatures. Common places, Vishnu Purana and Padma Purana and other places. And there's a very fascinating description found in Garga Samhita. In Garga Samhita, we find Gargamuni reciting an exchange between what you see on the cover of this book. That's Narada Muni and the king of Mithila. Now, the king of Mithila carried the kind of customary name of Janaka, but we know that Krishna went to visit the king of Mithila during his rule. And what was his name? Starts with a B. Bahalashva. So it's a discussion between Krishna and Bahalashva. So Narada is describing to Bahalashva this pastime, and it's very interesting. It has lots more detail. And what I'm reading now is not just a cut and paste of Garga Samhita, but it's a kind of textual narration of what it says there. One day, While herding his many beautiful Surabhi cows with the Gopas, Sri Krishna approached the newly blossoming Talaban forest. The land was even, smooth, and expansive, while the earth was black, covered with durva grass and full of ripe fruits. Out of fear of a demon named Denuka, the Gopas were reluctant to enter, and even Sri Krishna stayed at the outskirts of the forest, like you saw in that previous painting. Balaramji, who is the fearless resort of all living entities, tightened the blue sash on his waist and callously entered the forest to collect its ripe fruit. At that time, the demon Dhenukasura, who was a friend of Kamsa, happened to be taking a midday nap. When he heard the sound of falling fruits, he became filled with anger and, appearing in the form of an ass, came before Balaram. Without any warning, he violently kicked his chest with his hind legs. Sri Balaram, smiling with the cooling effulgence of 100 moons, began to chase Dhenuka around the forest. Catching the ass by his hind legs, he playfully threw him into a tall tree, which collapsed and made other trees also topple. Looking around, Sri Balaram was very pleased with the decorative damage to the forest. When the demon rushed toward him for a second time, he caught Dhenuka and, whirling him above his head like a lotus, threw him a distance of 8 miles. 8 miles means it went either, it could have been north and south, because west would have been 8 miles away is Govardhan Hill. The other way is landing in Mathura. So it must have been north or south, 8 miles. Although Dhenuka lost consciousness, he very shortly regained his ass senses and, manifesting a terrifying form with 4 horns, he began to chase the Gopas. As Dhenuka chased the cowherd boys, angry Sridham hit him with a stick. Subal hit him with his fist. Stoker Krishna whipped him with a rope, and Arjun and Anshu caught him together and threw him a great distance. Because the boys were the associates of Sri Krishna, by his grace, they were possessed with his own potencies. Now it's described in the earlier verses from our Acharya's commentaries when they were inviting Krishna to go deal with Dhenuka. It's described there also. They had powers like Krishna's, but they didn't use them because they wanted Krishna to show his power, his strength and prowess. They enjoyed, and Krishna's enjoyed their enjoying, and so now they're showing their power. While he was lying on the ground, Vishal and Rishabh kicked the demon and called him foul names. Tejasvi jumped on him and tried to strangle him. Devaprastha slapped him on the cheeks, and meek Varutapa threw his ball at him. Bewildered at the fierce attack of these simple cowherd boys, Dhenuka stood up, only to be grabbed with both hands by Sri Krishna. Whirled around mercilessly while the cowherd boys clapped, he was then thrown through the air onto Govardhan Hill. Crash landing. By the force of this attack, the demon lost consciousness for over an hour. Getting exciting. After regaining his senses, he uprooted Govardhan Hill and threw it at Sri Krishna. Govinda playfully caught Giriraj and threw him at Dhenuka's head. At this time, Balaram grabbed the demon with both hands, threw him to the ground, and then punched him with his fist. With that punch, the demon breathed his last, and the demigods showered flowers and glorified Krishna Balaram with music and songs. Yay. And then comes the next story about who he was in his previous life, which is also in Garga Samhita, and we'll get there. Huh? Doesn't say. It was around midday. He was taking a midday nap. Doesn't say. I mean, the narration in the Bhagavatam is pretty quick. The narration in Garga Samhita sounds like a few hours because he got knocked out unconscious for an hour and came back again. And now we're going back to the Bhagavatam. Lord Balaram threw the dead body of Dhenukasura into the tallest palm tree in the forest. And when the dead demon landed in the treetop, the tree began shaking. The great palm tree, causing a tree by its side also to shake, broke under the weight of the demon. The neighboring tree caused yet another tree to shake, and this one struck yet another tree, which also began shaking. In this way, many trees in the forest shook and broke. Because of Lord Balaram's pastime of throwing the body of the ass demon into the top of the tallest palm tree, all the trees began shaking and striking against one another as if blown about by powerful winds. And you see different ass demons flying through the air or in the tops of trees or suspended and so forth. The other ass demons, close friends of Dhenukasura, were enraged upon seeing his death, and thus they all immediately ran to attack Krishna and Balaram. So now we see both Krishna and Balaram fighting. First, it was just Balaram tossing Dhenuka. O king, as the demons attacked Krishna and Balaram, easily seized them one after another by their hind legs and threw them all into the tops of palm trees. And there's nice metaphors to what it looked like. Looked like the sky with clouds of different colors, and it was very decorative, very metaphorical language. And they were enjoying Krishna and Balaram, no worries. Here's another painting of or a drawing of the same. The earth then appeared beautifully covered with heaps of fruits and with the dead bodies of the demons, which were entangled in the broken tops of palm trees. Indeed, the earth shone like the sky, decorated with clouds. Interesting, colorful illustration. And there were a lot of these guys, and they had shape-changing capacity and assumed shapes like Dhenuka, but they all were destroyed. Hearing of this magnificent feat of the two brothers, the demigods and other elevated living beings rained down flowers and offered music and prayers and glorification. Now, the demigods had requested Krishna to appear and deal with the overburdensome demons, and they knew that Dhenuka was a big demon, and they were greatly pleased and greatly relieved. So, showering flowers and singing music. People now felt free to return to the forest where Dhenuka had been killed, and without fear, they ate the fruits of the palm trees. Also, the cows could now graze freely upon the grass there. It's said that because Dhenuka was keeping people out, the grass was abundant and lush. The other places where they're herding cows, much of the grass had been eaten, so it was good for the cows too. Thereafter, Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys returned to Braja. And then comes another festival. So the other festival is, as they're going back to Braja, the cowherd boys, they hadn't gone to music school or anything like that, but they were singing. And they were singing songs composed spontaneously, singing the glories of Krishna, singing the beauty of Krishna, singing his pastimes, enjoying like anything. And when they got to the village and the elders heard their song, they then listened to their song and they composed their own song and they began to sing their own songs about Krishna's pastimes. Because that's Vrindavan, it's just a place of singing and dancing or speaking and walking. With their bee-like eyes, the women of Vrindavan drank the honey of the beautiful face of Lord Mukunda. And thus they gave up the distress they had felt during the day because of separation from him. The young Vrindavan ladies cast sidelong glances at the Lord, glances filled with bashfulness, laughter, and submission. And Sri Krishna completely accepted these glances as a proper offering of respect, entering the cowherd village. Interesting. I mean, there's lots of commentary on this because remember, he's just turning 6, and there's kind of like a transition. We don't hear about the gopis before this chapter 15. So it's just starting the attraction that the gopis have for Krishna, and that Krishna has for the gopis. Now he's only 6, but we heard, well, the acharyas describe that he matured early, like with all the, there's a very interesting detail given in the commentary, particularly Vishwanath's commentary. When Krishna was 3 years and 4 months, his body and his mind and his disposition was like a 5-year-old. And so he entered the Kaishur period, although he was still Bala age. And similarly, so when he's now 6, he's like 9, although he's 6. And the girls, young girls, are appreciating his flute playing, his beauty, his attractiveness, and they're bashful, they're laughing, and they're submitting to Krishna, and he's accepting it as not just a young boy delighted by a young girl looking at him and glancing at him happily, but he's taking it as a proper offering of respect according to their rasa. Lord Krishna's hair, powdered with the dust raised by the cows, was decorated with a peacock feather and forest flowers. The Lord glanced charmingly and smiled beautifully, playing upon his flute, while his companions chanted his glories. The gopis all together came forward to meet him with their eyes eager to see him. Now the mood changes, and Shukadev Goswami starts speaking about Balaram. My dear Parikshit, that Balaram killed Dhenukasura is not such a wonderful thing, considering that he is the unlimited personality of Godhead, the controller of the entire universe. Indeed, the entire cosmos rests upon him, just as a woven cloth rests upon its own horizontal and vertical threads. Now, horizontal and vertical threads, this phrase comes up like 6 times in the Bhagavatam. The phrase is otam and protam. And so here's an image in the background of horizontal and vertical threads. Now, a cloth itself is the horizontal and vertical threads. It's not resting upon, but it is the horizontal and vertical threads. So similarly, the spiritual and material creations are arranged potencies of Balaram to provide for Krishna pastimes and provide for worldly people. So it's not the statement by Shukadev, because he understands this is 10th canto, certainly understands Sankhya philosophy. These potencies are Krishna's potencies, or Balaram's potencies, in manifesting the spiritual and material realm. That's service that he does. So it's not something wonderful. His potencies know no limit. That he killed Dhenaka, no problem. Then, lotus-eyed Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories are most pious to hear and chant, returned home to Braja with his elder brother Balaram. Along the way, the cowherd boys, his faithful followers, chanted his glories. You see, and it's a nice painting. He's reaching towards Mother Jasoda, but in the background is the cows, the cowherd boys, and they're just having a blast. blowing upon their bugles and enjoying pastimes with Krishna. So when he gets home, what happens? He's got to have his bath. So the ladies, there's detailed descriptions in some places where they have a whole good time giving him his bath and putting on new clothes and giving him his, they do deity worship again to the little boy Krishna who's just come back from herding the cows. You see in the lower left corner, there's Balarama with the plow over his shoulder. Perhaps it's Sridham by his side and some other cowherd boys. And the elders get their opportunity to engage in some service to Krishna. And what comes after his bath and dressing? After dining sumptuously on the delicious food given them by their mothers, plural, and being pampered in various ways, the two brothers lay down upon their excellent beds and happily went to sleep in the village of Braja. Here they are putting him to rest. Now, chapter 15 isn't over. There's another pastime that follows in chapter 15. That's the Kaliyadamana Lila. It's a long chapter, very wonderful, but it's a very young age. And that's the end of this presentation on the killing of Dhenuka. There's commentary by both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and by Bhakti Siddhanta indicating, as you probably know, there's a theme in the Krishna's killing of the demons in Braja. They indicate Krishna and Balaram helping the bhakta, the sadhaka, to overcome obstacles on the path of bhakti. Dhenuka, they write, represents gross materialistic intelligence, ignorance of spiritual knowledge. This is this vidyam chayas tadvedo bhayam saha message from Ishopanishad. Now, that fellow is inside a light bulb. So, just before coming to Atlanta, I was in Edison, New Jersey, and I found out for the first time how it got the name Edison, because it's the home of Thomas Edison that invented the light bulb. And they have like a monument at the place where his laboratory was, where he invented the light bulb. So there's Thomas Edison inside the light bulb. It takes intelligence to invent a light bulb. But it's when that intelligence is materialistic, ignorant of spiritual knowledge, that's what Dhenuka represents. And Krishna to the rescue, or in this case, Balaram to the rescue. They comment, our Bhakti Vinod and Bhakti Siddhanta, this verse from Bhagavad Gita. Let's say it together. Namam duskritano modha prapadyante naradama mayaya parityagana asurim bhavamashita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest of mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So Dhenuka is not wanting to surrender to Krishna, and Balaram to the rescue. Their comment goes like this. The Mayaya Paritaganas are those persons whose erudite knowledge has been nullified by the influence of the illusory material energy. They are mostly very learned fellows, great philosophers, poets, literati, scientists, but the illusory energy misguides them, and therefore they disobey the Supreme Lord. That's a back to Godhead illustration of a Mayaya Pratyajnana guy. He's got this diagram on the wall showing how to make a sandwich in his laboratory. And he's got some samples out there in front of him. Sometimes cut this way, sometimes cut that way. So learning how to deal with the material energy in such a way, more enjoyment from the material energy is the result, is where spiritual knowledge is covered by the illusory potency. So the real knowledge potential is taken by the illusory energy. On a similar note, there's Charles Darwin, in the article from Back to Godhead magazine, is analyzing what it takes to make an eyeball. And is it possible to make an eyeball through evolution process? So Maya Pratyajnana as an example. So aside from the Maya Pratyajnana, the materialistic intelligence overwhelming and covering over spiritual intelligence, the other symbol of a donkey, of course, is just hard work. The mudhas are those who are grossly foolish, like hardworking beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so do not want to part with them for the supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. The humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a morsel of grass, sleeping for a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. Mudha and Maya Pratyajnana. So these are two examples of what the Dhenuka represents, and specifically what both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta say. The other demons killed by Krishna is where Krishna very kindly to the surrendered devotee removes these obstacles. There's some ordeal involved, but Krishna removes the obstacles. These two, we're going to tomorrow be speaking about the other Pralamba. But for these two, our effort is very much needed to overcome these tendencies. And we're dependent upon Balaram's strength to enable us. Fruitive tendency is very stubborn. I was just discussing this the other day. In devotional service, the tendency of fruitive activity we carry with us into devotional service. We do something to get something. And it's like a stain that doesn't go away, and it just keeps coming, and it just keeps coming, and it just keeps coming. Driven by false ego, we do, and the mode of passion. We just keep doing things as if we're the doer and we're the enjoyer of what we do. And if this doesn't happen the way that we think it's supposed to happen, we become unhappy. We're going to become unhappy in any way because it's not what real happiness is. And we need Balaram's help. We need to make our effort to overcome such tendency. And we need Balaram's help, like anything, the strength that comes from Balaram. Now, one last section that's also described in Garga Samhita. In his past life, Dhenukasura was the powerful son of King Bali, who was the son of Virochana, and his name was Sahasika. Sahasika means powerful, or arrogant, or bold. One time, he enjoyed pastimes with 10,000 women on Gandhamadana mountain. It was a mistake on many platforms because Durvasa Muni was in a cave in Gandhamadana mountain. The sound in that forest of the many musical instruments and ankle bells broke the trance of Durvasa Muni, who in a cave nearby was meditating. Now it says specifically, meditating on Lord Krishna. We don't know him so much as someone who meditates on Lord Krishna, but that's what it says. Very thin, with a long beard, walking with wooden sandals, holding a stick, and glowing with flames of anger, Durvasa, whose angry gaze makes the universe tremble, left his cave and spoke to Sahasika. Fool, ass-like person, rise, become an ass. Oh, demon, after 400,000 years in the transcendental circle of Vrindavan, in the sacred forest of Talavan, you will attain liberation by Lord Balaram's hand. Sri Narada is narrating this to King Bahulanashva because Vishnu, that's he, had given Prahlad Maharaj a benediction. Your descendants will not be killed by me. Krishna arranged that Dhenukasura was killed by Lord Balaram's hand. Very clever. And that's the end of this narration of Lord Krishna killing the ass demon Dhenukasura, or excuse me, Balaram killing Dhenukasura. So it's a rich story. We're getting a nice flavor of the residents of Vrindavan, the denizens, the going from the grass, the earth, the grass, the creepers, the bushes, the trees, the birds, all the living entities. They love Krishna, and Krishna stimulates their ecstatic love by his daily entering into the forest and seeing them and touching them and speaking to them, speaking about them, and they become jubilant. He becomes jubilant. And those are those living entities in Vrindavan. And then, of course, there's the cowherd boys and the cows. But we're not excluding the forest of Vrindavan itself because Krishna loves the place. It's his home. And it's their home, and they're receiving another sadhu in their midst. So they're very joyful, and they're doing their part. And so it's a symphony of loving exchange, the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. So our moderator, you want to take over from here?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Maharaj, for wonderful narration of how Lord Balaram killed demon Dhenukasur. Thank you so much. I could see so very, very beautiful collection of all the paintings that you have, got it. So very amazing. And I wish we all were together and we could relish this, the sweets, relish the samosas and kachori that you just mentioned in the class. Hopefully we will do that. So Maharaj, will we have some time for questions? Okay. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, if you have any questions, please raise your hands and we will moderate so that you can ask your question to Maharaj. And if you are able to come on a video, that will be great. So please let me know if you have any questions. So we are giving opportunity to those in the Zoom. So those who are connected may please raise their hand to ask any questions to Maharaj on the topic that we discussed today. Hare Krishna. Okay, there is a question in the chat, Maharaj. So let me just read this out. Question is by Prithvilasini Mataji. She is saying, thank you so much, Maharaj, for the amazing nectar. As Dhenukasura's identity was that of being in Prahlad's line, I was wondering what was the specific liberation that Dhenukasura attained, as it mentioned in Garga Samhita.
You'll find the answer to that question in Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 7, I think it's verse 34. There's a long list spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit that lists those who achieved salvation, liberation. And Dhenuka's name is listed there. Those that were killed by Krishna achieved liberation.
you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. I was also wondering if sometimes in Garga Samhita they also mention about the specific type of liberation, like some attain Sayujya while some others become associates of Krishna. So was there any special concession for them?
There's no indication that I'm aware of. It's certainly not in Garga Samhita. I'm unaware of which particular type of liberation, but liberation.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your very wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Maharaj. So, dear devotees, are there any questions before we move on to the audience, which is in the room? Okay, Maharaj, yes, I think Varun Prabhu, would you like to have a question? Do you have a question?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is Radhika Kasturi from California. So my question is, Maharaj, you mentioned about Balaram acting as we should pray to Balaram in order to get the strength. As far as other demons go, or what it represents, the anarthas it represents, for all of them we have to pray to Balaram to get the strength, right? Why specifically just the two demons that you were talking about? Is there a connection to that, or how do we understand? Because Balaram is who we ask for strength and determination for the process of bhakti, and he also represents the Guru Tattva. So I just wanted to kind of understand how we have to look at it from the perspective of other demons.
What's unique about
Anarthas.
these two in contrast to the others? That's your question.
Correct, Maharaj.
Yes, you're right. Calling to Balaram for the spiritual strength to achieve what's needed in the bhakti path is for every obstacle on the path of bhakti. What I understood from what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written is that these two faults or devotional obstacles are very special in that they require extra conscientious effort on our part because of the pernicious or pervasive nature of the material entanglement. For example, fruitive work. You've heard, I'm sure, Prabhupada speak about the tendency for fruitive work. If the tendency is like that of an ass that carries the load, although what they're looking for is a morsel of grass that's readily available anywhere, but they carry on anyway because they feel they they need a master to engage them, to give them the morsel of grass that's available anywhere. So that mentality is a mentality that we carry into the realm of bhakti. That is, we have to work hard. No, it's not that devotees are supposed to become lazy, but working hard for something that has a fruitive perspective to it. I'll do this to get that, and it's all about me and what I'm going to get from what I do. That tendency is very pervasive, and therefore it falls in, my understanding is this, it falls in a very special category amongst obstacles on the path of devotional service. The fruitive tendency notion, and similarly the valuing of material intelligence to the exclusion of spiritual intelligence. That's pervasive, I have observed. That is, the way in which we're brought up in Kali Yuga is we're encouraged, like anything, to develop material intelligence, and we're rewarded from childhood for developing and manifesting material intelligence and so forth and so on. And it has an effect, material intelligence has an effect of being unable to keep the mind fixed upon Krishna, because material intelligence doesn't find anything fruitive with chanting. When you're chanting the holy name, what's fruitive about it? What's your material intelligence isn't going to help you keep your mind absorbed in Krishna. So it's something that requires a special effort on our part, and a special help from Balaram to be successful in that spiritual act. So back to your question. The other obstacles certainly require strength, and the strength comes from Lord Balaram. So we're dependent upon Lord Balaram in those other areas. But fortunately for us, Krishna is also there by the side of Balaram, and he especially helps when he sees our desire to please him and serve him. He will help by removal of those obstacles. And Balaram by his side.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for clarifying that. I understood from your answer that extra special effort is required for these two demons or anarthas from Balramji. And as far as other demons go, Krishna is there and he will help us get away with the anartha. Absolutely, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for a wonderful explanation. So, dear devotees, do we have any questions? Okay. So, Maharaj, there are no questions on the Zoom. Maybe if there are questions in the room, we can take those.
And also in the room. Anything from the room? Discussion? Yes? Go ahead.
Maharaj, I just feel that Maharaj, I just felt that Krishna made Balaram kill Dhenukasura because of his promise to Bali.
Yeah.
But since we know that Krishna and Balaram are non-different, isn't that kind of a little
Clever.
clever?
Yes, it's clever. But he keeps his promise. But Dhenuka had to be removed, and so Balaram, you do the honors. He kept his word.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So,
Button?
yeah,
Is it on? It's on? Okay.
yeah, Hare Krishna. So, question is, Maharaj, Dhenukasura in his previous life, he was in the lineage of Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj.
Yes.
There is no way we can know, even though when he was spending time with many women, there is no way we can know whether he was a devotee or not, right?
That's right.
Okay.
But Krishna knows.
Oh, okay. So there was a special, because he was in the lineage of the great devotees.
Krishna keeps his word.
Oh, okay.
And he's omniscient. We're not omniscient, and we struggle to keep our word.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Like we know, like Putana is also related.
Louder.
Putana is also related to Prahlad Maharaj lineage, but Krishna killed Putana, right, Prabhu Maharaj? So how to understand that?
Putana was not related.
Bali Maharaj sister or
That was his
something.
sister. Previous life. Good point. Now, let me think this through. Two things come to mind in response, and it's not, slam dunk, but it's something that comes to mind. And one of those somethings is these promises, or in your lineage, may specifically refer to men. And second, related, is it's very, very uncommon that females are killed by the Supreme Lord. Interesting is that the first demon that Ram killed, the first demon that Krishna killed, were both women. And there's this very interesting kind of esoteric explanation of why that is so presented. Because I had this question some time ago, and Hari Parshad Prabhu was the only one who came up with the answer from commentary given by Hari Suri. And it has to do with the first obstacle for anyone is opulence, and the beauty of women in gold represent opulence. And so she was representing that obstacle. She not only was beautiful, but she was with ornaments and attire that looked like she was from the heavenly realm, and everyone was like, wow, who is this person? And so they let her in. But Krishna knew, and so removing that obstacle on that basis. Now, that doesn't answer the question, what about, she was previously sister or daughter, because there's two versions, sister of Bali Maharaj. That's not the same as his son, Virochan. Prahlad's son was Virochan, Bali was his son. So it's not a slam dunk, but it's something in the vicinity of, it's an exception. And the rule is descendants have to do with the male, not the females from a king, lineage of a king. That's the best I can do. It's a clever question. He's complaining about Krishna was clever to send Balaram. I'm saying you're pretty clever to ask that question.
Actually, Maharaj, on this point, I actually heard an explanation which I want to share.
Please, let's
And
hear it.
you may be able to validate it. I'm not certain about how correct it is, but it was said that since Putana breastfed Krishna, he wanted to give her the role of his mother.
Yeah.
And so this was the medium through which he really...
That was the medium, yes. But why did he have to kill her to give her that position?
True.
That was the question. Because his promise to Prahlad, those in your lineage I will not kill. Okay, do we have online questions?
This question is by Amara Mataji.
Speak slowly.
While accepting Krishna's service, what could be some considerations to make sure that our intentions are not fruitive even subtly? I had a question yesterday in the evening class. In the liminal space, how to maintain enthusiasm when physical association is limited and limited attention span for online association.
So that's two questions packed into one question. And the only answer to there's not even a tinge of fruitive intention is when you become a pure devotee. And because we were just discussing this in the morning class, if you want to know what that looks like, so you can evaluate yourself if you're there yet, Canto 11, Chapter 11, text 29 through 32. You match those criterion and you're there. And most likely you're not there. But when the bell rings and those criterion are met, you're there. Now this other question is a liminal space. It's language that I heard many years ago. Sachinandan Swami used, and I liked it. And what it means is in between this and that. It's liminal. I had to look it up. Liminal is a Latin word. Limen is neither here nor there. Like in the doorway, because when you walk in the front door, there's the outside, there's the inside, and there's a piece of wood where the door closes tightly against that piece of wood. It's called a limen. It's neither outside nor inside. Or in architecture, It's like where Hiranyakashipu was killed. Neither inside nor outside. It's a liminal space, or a porch or patio or something like that. It's neither here nor there, but it's in between. So it's a sociological term also, I've learned, that where people are like a teenage life. They're no longer children, they're not yet adults, they're in this uncomfortable teenage space. That's a liminal space. It's one way to think of what does liminal mean. So when we're practicing, we're sadhakas, we're practicing bhakti, and we're not there yet. We have some idea what the goal is, and we're way over here. We're looking at the goal with our binoculars, and it looks really far away. And we're transitioning in between. And it's what's common is people are conditioned by their conditioning. So even if they go a little bit away from their conditioning with complacency, they're back to their conditioning. Anyway, transition, or it's like, say, when you're moving from one residence to another, it's uncomfortable. When you're going through teenage life, it's uncomfortable. And lots of teenagers sending me, how do I decide what my career should be? And, it's like, it's all this uncomfortable stuff that goes on in life where you have a goal and you're not there yet. So her question is, when you're transitioning through this liminal space in bhakti, how do you maintain enthusiasm? When enthusiasm is necessary, utsahan nishchaya dayat, how do you maintain enthusiasm? And one answer is by staying in close association with those that are enthusiastic, sadhu sangha. And if you slacken or make offense, then you got a problem. And then enthusiasm wanes. So stay in association with sadhus. And during this pandemic period, and now it's the Delta variant period, it's not easy to have association. So we have to learn, like we're doing now largely with people participating virtually. And once you've zeroed in on virtual sangha, it's not the same, but it's the best you can do through sound vibration in the company of those who are pursuing what you're pursuing, like-minded persons pursuing pure bhakti, and develop very close friendships with those that are very intent, serious, and consistent in striving for higher stages of bhakti, or a more purified, at least, or purified existence in a bhakti life. You're friendly to everyone, but you keep very close association, one means or another means, and when you have the desire, you find the way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You find the way to get that association on a regular basis and keep that in the priority position, even if things get busy. Don't let that drop off, because if it drops off, you're in trouble, spiritual trouble. Then you're a few steps forward and 10 steps back. That's not a good place to be. So beware of that complacency, or finding yourself so busy you don't have time for proper sadhu sangha. And there's many ways to find it, virtually, especially. Anything else? We have one more in the room. And anything more online, you let me know, because we're gonna, our facilitator here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Today morning I was going through the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, instructs Arjuna, where he convinces Arjuna, you should fight, you should not give up your dharma. And one of the reason was if you're not fighting, your fame will be you'll lose your fame. Being a Kshatriya, you'll lose your fame.
Yes.
Right? No. So Maharaj, but in controversy, where in
Speak slowly.
In Bhagavatam, where we see Durga Maharaj was insulted by his stepmom,
Yeah.
and Narada Muni comes and instructs him you have to give up this
Get back mentality.
and you have to face the insult as you have to tolerate it and see it as
Yes.
like everybody, all the humans go through that karma as
Yep.
per their
Yes.
previous.
Yes.
So how do we take that? Both are in the same Kshatriya position, but Krishna here instructs Arjuna to go for the dharma, and here Narada Muni says that you should not it's take it as a karma and give up
Well,
it.
dharma doesn't mean get back mentality. Arjuna was ready to let go, but
Mm.
Krishna didn't want. Krishna wanted. He wanted him to have a dharmic fight. Yuddha, that's dharmic,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
Mama nusmara yudhyacha, perform prescribed duty. Krishna wanted. Now, what Narada was saying was, even if you want a kingdom, don't go after it in a get back mentality.
Okay. Now I got it. So it's the consciousness level difference.
Yes.
Okay.
The intention behind. So Arjuna's detached. That's okay, be detached. In a detached mood, carry out your dharma. And Dhruva, don't be attached. This isn't how you can get the pleasure of Vishnu, by being attached like this, get back and get your kingdom. And, that's not dharma. Do your duty in a detached spirit. And then, his answer, these are all very good instructions, but I can't follow them.
Yeah. Mhm.
So give me some means I can get what I want, because that's where I'm at. I need what I got to get what I want to get. Can't follow this other. Okay. Anything from our
Thank you,
facilitator, or we're going to wrap up?
There are no questions, Maharaj, from here.
Well, we'll see you again tomorrow, 11:30.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much for giving us your association.
We were a little late due to technology glitch, but we'll try to take care of that tomorrow. We'll be ready ahead of time.
No problem at all, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj ki Jai. So moving on, dear devotees, we will start with our announcement. So let me just quickly. So I hope you all can see. So today we just had one session, part 5. Tomorrow we will, today we had part 4. Tomorrow we will have a part 5, where again His Holiness Rompada Maharaj will be speaking on how Lord Balaram killed Pralambasura. So please join in tomorrow, same time, 11:30. And these will be shared in the WhatsApp channel as well. So then midweek program that we have is we have, as you know, we have started from last week, talking about 12 Mahajans every week. Every Wednesday we pick up one Mahajan and it is narrated by a devotee. Last week we heard about Lord Brahma from his case Adhikadara Prabhu. This week, this Wednesday, Her Grace Geeta Devi Mataji will be speaking on another Mahajan, Narad Muni. So please join in on August 18 at 7 p.m. We also have, weekly kirtan, which happens on every Sunday. So today evening, there will be a kirtan at 6 p.m. So please join in virtually on ISKCON Atlanta Facebook page, where you can take part in this. And upcoming festival in the next week are on the 18th August is a Pavitropan Ekadashi. So, and on the 19th, which is the our Dwadashi, the fasting breakfast time or breaking time is 7:02 to 11:28 a.m. Please look for exact timing in your community where you are living, because it could be 1 or 2 minutes here and there. But this is the timing in Atlanta Temple, 7:02 to 11:28 a.m. in the morning on 19th. From the 18th, we also have a Julan Yatra that begins, swing festival that starts from that day. And on August 19th, apart from Dwadashi fasting, We will also have Srila Rupa Goswami Disappearance Day. So these are the upcoming festivals, and we have some mega celebrations coming up in this month. On Sunday, August 22nd, we have a Balram Jayanti celebration. So the details will be shared as we come close to the festival, how we are celebrating it, how you can participate. So please keep looking. And of course, on the 30th is this is our mega festival that we celebrate every year. The most auspicious day is Sri Krishna Janmashtami. So this is again Monday. Details will be shared in the groups and in the temple website. So please keep looking for that. 31st August is Vyas Puja of our dear Gurudev Srila Prabhupada. So this is another very auspicious day, dear devotees, because of whom we are able to connect like this in a Western countries and read Bhagavatam, relish Bhagavad Gita discussion, have association of Maharaj is only because of our dear Gurudev. So we will be celebrating in a very grand way. There'll be details put out, flyers will be sent, details will be published in the few days. But please mark these days in your calendar. These are very, very important days, and we should not miss them in our days. Like a very important meeting that we have in office is something like that. So please mark these days. And of course, if you wish to join in, if you are not part of any of this digital platform that we have, you could use this, ISKCON Linktree /ISKCON Atlanta. This will help you connect to all these sites, one by one. Don't have to go to each one and subscribe, but just by going to Linktree, you could connect to all the, WhatsApp, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and website just from one place. So please do that. And you can get all the updates from this page. We also like to pray for His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, Her Grace Govardhan Lila Mataji, who are having some health difficulties right now, and of course doctors who have been helping and fighting COVID-19. So we will chant 3 times Hare Krishna mantra for the prayers of these devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So that brings to the end of today's program, dear devotees. We will again meet tomorrow at 11:30. Program will start sharp at 11:30. Maharaj just mentioned. So please be there at 11:30, and we'll have a wonderful katha from His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj on how Balramji killed Pralambasur. So please join in tomorrow. Thank you so much for your association for today, and we look forward to meeting you tomorrow on the same platform. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhudevacha patidanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Kodi Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.